Paris, early autumn morning. The cobblestone streets were still covered in mist, but the glass building housing Chanel's design office was already brightly lit with yellow lights. Passers-by could only look up from afar, because inside was not only a workplace, but also the creative heart of a legendary brand, where every stitch, every inch of fabric could shape an entire global fashion season. Amélie Laurent stood still for a few seconds in front of the large door. Her heart was beating fast, both nervous and excited. At 23, she had just graduated from Central St. Martin's in London, the cradle of talented young designers. With no family background or connections, she entered Chanel with her own ability, winning a design competition that thousands of students around the world participated in. And today, she officially set foot in the Holy Land, the creative office of Chanel Paris. The door opened, the world inside made Amélie hold her breath. The pristine white walls were covered with sketches, the light reflected off the mannequins wearing half-finished haute couture designs. The polished wooden floor, neatly stacked rolls of tweed, silk, satin, sequins. The smell of new fabric, leather, espresso coffee mixed together in a scent that was both luxurious and fierce. This was not just an office. This was a battlefield. Amélie walked in, feeling all eyes on her immediately. Veteran designers, hair neatly tied, clothes neatly tailored, each gaze both judging and cold. They recognized her as the newcomer, a young girl with little experience. A woman in a white suit whispered to a colleague. "Another dreamy girl who thinks she's going to change Chanel." Amélie heard it, her face flushed slightly, but she took a deep breath and continued walking. The sound of high heels clicking loudly. All the staff immediately fell silent. Claire Dubois, head of design, appeared. At 40, Claire was a legend within Chanel, sharp, cold, and notoriously ruthless. Every step she took exuded power. Claire's eyes swept over Amélie, then paused for just a second, as if to remind her, there is no room for immaturity here. "Good, everyone is here," Claire said in a low, razor-sharp voice. "Paris Fashion Week is only a few weeks away. We have no time for mediocrity." Amélie swallowed. She had heard of the fierceness of the fashion world, but standing here, she truly felt it. At Chanel, every look, every move could determine the survival of a career. A slideshow popped up, illuminating the room. The image of Jennie, BLACKPINK, appeared, the face of a global star, Chanel's new muse. All the staff were in an uproar. Claire raised her hand to silence, her eyes shining with pride. Jennie will appear in Paris Fashion Week wearing an exclusive Chanel outfit. And that outfit will be created by us. Amélie's heart was pounding. Paris Fashion Week, the most prestigious fashion event in the world. Jennie, the youthful icon that Chanel bet on. This was not just a project, but an opportunity for any designer to make their mark in the history of the brand. Claire paused for a moment, her eyes scanned the room, then lowered her voice but sharply. "I want the first sketch on my desk in 72 hours. If anyone thinks they are not capable, leave now." No one moved. The atmosphere was as tense as a knife cut. Amélie clenched her pencil tightly in her hand, her heart filled with determination. This was her chance. This was the time for her to prove that she was not a dreamy girl, but a designer capable of changing the game. But in that moment, she didn't know that envious eyes had begun to follow her. And in this world, talent is not always celebrated, sometimes, it is cruelly taken away. The announcement still echoed in Amélie's mind long after the meeting ended. Jennie. Paris Fashion Week. 72 hours. The entire office had exploded into frantic energy. Desks once cluttered with fabric swatches now looked like battle stations. Designers hunched over sketchbooks, pencils scratching furiously. Others rushed to the fabric library, pulling bolts of tweed, silk, and sequins as if their lives depended on it. And in a sense, they did. At Chanel, opportunities were currency. To have one's design chosen for Jennie, for Paris Fashion Week, was more than just prestige, it was immortality. The chosen designer would not only leave their mark on the runway but also on the history of the brand. Amélie sat at her desk, her sketchpad open, hands trembling slightly. She closed her eyes and inhaled. This was what she had dreamed of since she was a child, sketching gowns by candlelight in Lyon. She reminded herself, I didn't get here by accident. I earned this. Her pencil touched paper. The lines came hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. A silhouette took shape, bold yet elegant, embodying the timeless sophistication of Chanel but with a fierce, modern twist. She imagined Jennie stepping onto the Paris runway, black satin cut into sharp angles, softened by pearl accents, the classic Chanel tweed reimagined as a cropped jacket with unexpected, asymmetrical sleeves. A fusion of Parisian chic and K-pop audacity. It was daring. It was dangerous. It was hers. But as her vision took form, she could feel eyes on her. Across the room, Antoine, the senior designer whose smug smile never seemed to leave his face, leaned casually against his desk, pretending to study his own sketches. Yet every so often, his gaze slid toward Amélie's work. His lips curved in a smirk, as though he already saw a way to twist this in his favor. Amélie shifted, covering her sketchpad slightly. A knot tightened in her stomach. She had heard whispers about Antoine, how junior designers' ideas had mysteriously reappeared under his name, how Claire always seemed to defend him during presentations. But without proof, no one dared confront him. Still, she pushed the thought aside. She couldn't waste time worrying about politics. Every second mattered. She bent over her sketchbook, losing herself in the rhythm of creation, until the world around her faded and only the dress remained. Hours passed. The office lights dimmed as night crept over Paris. Most of the staff had left, but Amélie stayed, her fingers stained with graphite, her mind burning with ideas. She pinned fabric samples on her corkboard, testing how silk shimmered under lamplight, how sequins caught the glow like a constellation. Then came the voice, sharp, cutting. Working late. She turned. Claire stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her silhouette framed against the glass walls. The woman's gaze darted to Amélie's desk, to the sketches spread across it. Yes, Madame Du Bois, Amélie said, her voice steady though her chest pounded. I want to make sure my design is ready. Claire stepped closer, her heels clicking softly on the floor. She stopped just behind Amélie, looking over her shoulder. For a moment, Amélie dared to hope that Claire might be impressed. But then came the verdict. Ambitious, Claire murmured. Perhaps, too ambitious. Chanel is timeless. We are not in the business of chasing trends. Her words dripped with dismissal. Yet, before turning away, Claire's fingers brushed the corner of Amélie's sketch. Just for a heartbeat, her eyes flickered, not with disdain, but with calculation. And then she was gone, leaving only the echo of her heels and the icy chill of doubt. Amélie sat frozen, staring at her drawing. Her mind raced. Was she wrong? Was her vision too daring for Chanel? Or had she just glimpsed something else in Claire's gaze, something that felt dangerously close to interest? The following morning, exhaustion weighed heavy, but Amélie arrived early, clutching her sketchbook like a shield. As she entered the office, she froze. Antoine stood at the center of the room, surrounded by a small group of designers, flipping through sketches on glossy paper. And there, unmistakably, were designs nearly identical to hers, slight variations, yes, but the heart of the concept, the fusion of K-pop boldness and Chanel heritage, was hers. Magnifique, Antoine, one designer said. This could be perfect for Jennie. Antoine only smirked, tucking the sketches under his arm as if they were his birthright. When his eyes met Amélie's across the room, he gave her a slow, mocking nod. Her stomach dropped. The fire she had felt the night before now turned to ice. Already, the theft had begun. And unless she found a way to fight back, her dream of Paris Fashion Week, and perhaps her future at Chanel, would be stolen before it even began. The third morning arrived with an edge of storm in the air. The office buzzed with nervous anticipation. Claire had called for a presentation. Each designer would submit their sketches, and she would decide which concepts would be forwarded to the executive board. From there, one would be chosen for Jennie's Paris Fashion Week look. For Amélie, it was supposed to be her moment. Her sketch had consumed her for days, sleepless nights, endless adjustments. Every line felt like her blood and breath etched onto the page. She clutched the folder tightly as she took her seat at the long oak conference table, the Chanel CC gleaming in silver at its center. One by one, the designers presented. Clean, safe silhouettes. Elegant but predictable. Claire listened with her usual stony expression, nodding occasionally, dismissing more often. Then Antoine rose. He smoothed his tailored jacket, flashed a practiced smile, and laid his sketches before the room. Gasps rippled through the group. The designs were bold, sharper, edgier than anything the others had presented. A cropped tweed jacket reinvented with asymmetry, black satin cut at angles softened with pearl accents. It was daring. Modern. Perfect for Jennie. It was also unmistakably Amélie's. Her throat tightened. She stared, stunned, as Antoine spoke in his silky voice. Chanel is eternal, yes, but Paris Fashion Week demands surprise. For Jennie, a star who embodies both tradition and rebellion, I propose this vision. A dialogue between heritage and the future. The words struck her like blows. They were her words. The same language she had rehearsed in her mind while sketching. Claire leaned forward, studying the sheets. For the first time that morning, her eyes lit with something like approval. This, she said slowly, is intriguing. The room erupted in murmurs. Antoine accepted the praise with a gracious bow of the head, but when his gaze flicked toward Amélie, there was no mistaking the smug gleam in his eyes. Her hands trembled beneath the table. Rage, humiliation, fear, every emotion crashed inside her at once. She wanted to stand, to shout, "He stole it. It's mine." But the weight of the office, the hierarchy, and Claire's looming presence pressed her down like iron. Her chance was slipping through her fingers. When the meeting adjourned, the others swarmed Antoine with congratulations. Amélie remained frozen in her chair, staring at her untouched folder. Her design, her dream, now wore someone else's name. She rose quietly and walked to her desk. Her chest ached as if a blade had been driven through it. Was this the reality of Chanel? That brilliance only survived if someone powerful enough claimed it. That juniors like her were meant to feed the giants until they had nothing left. The office emptied slowly for lunch, but Amélie stayed behind. She spread her sketches across her desk, comparing them to the images burned into her memory from Antoine's presentation. The resemblance was undeniable. Yet proof was slippery. She had no witnesses, no recordings, nothing but the truth in her heart. She pressed her palms to her eyes, willing herself not to cry. Not here. Not now. A soft knock startled her. She looked up to see Ethan, the young photographer who managed Chanel's internal media. He leaned against the doorframe, camera slung casually around his neck, his expression gentle. "I saw your sketches last night," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "What?" "When you pinned them on the board. I was shooting details of the workspace for the archives. I snapped a few frames with your design in the background." The words hit her like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Evidence. Real evidence. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. Antoine's work today. Amélie, it was yours. I know it. And I think Claire knows it too. That last sentence cut differently, like a whisper of betrayal far deeper than Antoine's theft. If Claire had recognized her hand in the design and still chosen to ignore it, then the battle was even steeper than she imagined. But for the first time since the meeting, resolve steadied her. She wasn't powerless. Not anymore. She met Ethan's gaze, her voice low but firm. Then I'll fight. I won't let him take this from me. Ethan nodded, a spark of admiration in his eyes. Good. Because Paris Fashion Week isn't just a stage for Jennie. It's your stage too. Don't let them push you into the shadows. Amélie gathered her sketches, her pulse quickening. The fire inside her, nearly extinguished, flared back to life. Antoine might have stolen the spotlight today, but she would not surrender. She would find a way to prove the truth. And when Jennie walked that runway, it would not be Antoine's triumph. It would be hers. The office felt different that morning, charged, electric, almost predatory. The glass walls reflected nervous faces, and even the hum of Paris traffic outside seemed muted compared to the tension inside Chanel's design headquarters. Claire had summoned everyone to the main presentation room. This was it. The first round of sketches for Jennie's Paris Fashion Week look. Amélie's stomach fluttered as she clutched her portfolio. She had spent 3 sleepless nights refining every line, pouring her soul into her design. Her hand had trembled with exhaustion when she added the final pearl detail, but when she looked at the finished sketch, she had felt something rare and undeniable, pride. She was ready. The long table gleamed under soft white light, the double C Chanel logo centered like a silent judge. One by one, designers took their turn. They spoke of elegance, timelessness, clean silhouettes. Claire's face remained impassive, her sharp eyes betraying nothing. Then Antoine rose. Smooth, confident, practiced. He laid his sheets before the room and began to speak. And Amélie's blood ran cold. The design on the table was hers. Not identical, no, Antoine was too clever for that. But the essence, the architecture, the soul of it was hers. The asymmetrical tweed jacket, the bold satin angles softened with pearls, the clash of Parisian classicism and K-pop rebellion, everything she had imagined for Jennie now spilled from Antoine's mouth as if it had always belonged to him. A murmur of admiration swept the room. Claire leaned forward, her expression softening for the first time all morning. She tapped one manicured nail against the sketch. Finally, she said. Something with teeth. This could work. The praise hit Amélie like a knife to the ribs. Her breath caught in her throat. Every instinct screamed at her to rise, to shout, he stole it. It's mine. But fear pinned her down. What proof did she have? A few sketches in her folder. Her word against Antoine's. And Claire was nodding, actually nodding, her lips curving in the faintest trace of approval. Antoine's gaze flicked toward her. For a fraction of a second, their eyes locked, and he smiled. A slow, mocking smile. The room clapped politely. Antoine accepted their admiration with a bow of the head, the picture of modesty. Amélie's fists clenched under the table, her nails biting into her skin. Her dream, her chance, was slipping away in plain sight, stolen before it had even begun. When the meeting adjourned, the others clustered around Antoine, offering congratulations. No one noticed Amélie slip out, her chest tight, her vision blurred with hot, angry tears. She walked quickly down the corridor, past mannequins draped in half-finished gowns, past mood boards covered in fabric swatches, until she reached her desk. She dropped into her chair and pulled out her sketchbook, flipping through the pages desperately. The drawing stared back at her, undeniable evidence of her originality. But evidence to whom? If she went to Claire, would she even listen? Or would she dismiss Amélie as just another jealous junior? Her heart sank. Maybe this was how it worked here. Maybe brilliance meant nothing unless someone powerful enough claimed it. The office grew quieter as people left for lunch. Amélie stayed behind, tracing the lines of her sketch with trembling fingers. She was on the verge of despair when a voice startled her. "You drew this, didn't you?" She looked up sharply. Ethan stood in the doorway, the photographer with the ever-present camera hanging around his neck. His voice was soft, but his eyes were steady. Amélie blinked. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Last night, when you pinned your drafts on the board, I was shooting workspace shots for the archives. Your design was in the background. I have photos." The words hit her like a jolt of electricity. "You have proof?" she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Antoine's sketches this morning, they were yours. Everyone else might pretend not to see it, but I know. And I think Claire knows too." That last sentence chilled her. She had seen something in Claire's eyes during the meeting, something sharp, calculating. If Claire had recognized her work but chosen silence, the betrayal cut deeper than Antoine's theft ever could. Amélie swallowed hard. Her hands shook, but not with fear anymore, with fury. "Then I'll fight," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it burned. "I won't let him take this from me." For the first time since the meeting, she felt the fire return. Antoine might have stolen the spotlight today, but the runway hadn't happened yet. Jennie hadn't chosen yet. And Amélie wasn't done. Not even close. The morning of Jennie's fitting dawned crisp and golden, Paris humming with anticipation. At Chanel headquarters, the air was electric. Assistants rushed through corridors carrying garment bags, trays of jewelry, shoes gleaming like weapons of war. The entire building seemed to vibrate with one truth: today, the star of BLACKPINK would walk through these doors. Amélie arrived early, her heart pounding. She had barely slept. For nights she had labored in secret, sharpening every detail of her design. It wasn't just a sketch anymore, it was a living vision, ready to claim its place. Yet the danger had never been greater. Today, Antoine's stolen design would be unveiled to Jennie. Today, Claire's influence would try to cement the theft as truth. And today, Amélie would have her one chance to break free. By the time she reached the main studio, the room was already staged like a theater. Mannequins lined the walls draped in proposed designs. A long mirror gleamed at the far end. Stylists whispered nervously, adjusting rails of Chanel's most guarded creations. Claire stood in the center, poised, her white suit immaculate. Antoine hovered beside her, smirking as though the show already belonged to him. "Stay sharp," Ethan murmured as he passed by, his camera in hand. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment, an anchor in the storm. Then the doors opened, and silence fell like a curtain. Jennie entered. She was smaller than Amélie had imagined, yet her presence filled the room like a tidal wave. Dressed simply in black, hair tied in a sleek knot, she carried herself with effortless grace. But her eyes, curious, assessing, sharp, missed nothing. She smiled politely as Claire swept forward to greet her, but Amélie could see it: Jennie was not here to be dazzled by flattery. She was here for authenticity. "Jennie, darling," Claire purred, taking her hand. "Welcome. Paris awaits your brilliance. We've prepared several looks, and I think you'll find Antoine's concept especially compelling." Antoine stepped forward, unveiling his sketches pinned neatly on boards, his words flowing like honey. He spoke of innovation, of youth culture, of bridging heritage with rebellion. His voice was polished, his gestures practiced. The other designers nodded along dutifully. Jennie studied the sketches in silence. Her expression remained unreadable. Amélie's chest constricted. Every detail Antoine presented, every pearl, every asymmetric line, was hers. And yet here she stood, invisible, forced to watch her creation paraded under another's name. Her nails dug into her palms. Should she speak now? Should she throw down her proof? But Ethan's warning echoed in her mind, timing is everything. Wait for the moment they can't ignore you. So she waited. One by one, Jennie tried on pieces prepared by the team. Dresses flowed over her figure, elegant but safe. Jackets shimmered under the lights, beautiful but predictable. She looked stunning, as she always did, but not transformed. Then Antoine's prototype was brought out. Gasps filled the room. Even Amélie couldn't help it, the garment was striking, even as an imitation. Jennie slipped into it, the mirror reflecting a vision close to what Amélie had once dreamed. But something was off. Jennie turned side to side, her brows knitting faintly. She tugged at the hem, adjusted the sleeve. Her eyes narrowed as if searching for something missing. Claire clapped her hands. Magnificent. This is it. But Jennie didn't nod. Instead, she said softly, it's bold, but it doesn't feel complete. The room froze. Claire's smile stiffened. Antoine's smirk faltered. Amélie's heart hammered. This was the moment. She stepped forward, pulse roaring in her ears. Excuse me, Mademoiselle Kim, she said, her voice shaking but clear. All eyes turned. Claire's glare could have burned through steel, but Amélie pressed on. I have another design. It might capture what you're looking for. The silence was suffocating. Antoine laughed lightly, dismissive. She's a junior, he said smoothly. Still learning. Let's not waste Jennie's time. But Jennie's gaze had shifted. She studied Amélie curiously, as if sensing the trembling fire beneath her words. Show me, she said simply. Amélie's breath caught. With trembling hands, she unfolded her portfolio. She laid out her sketches, her true vision, bolder, sharper, alive. And Ethan, as if on cue, stepped forward with his camera, flipping through the photos he had captured, the sketches pinned to her board, the progress of her work. Proof. Jennie's eyes moved from the sketches to the photographs, then to Amélie herself. A slow smile curved her lips. This, Jennie said at last, lifting one sketch between her fingers, feels real. The room erupted in whispers. Claire's jaw tightened. Antoine's face drained of color. And Amélie, her heart soared, fierce and terrified all at once. For the first time, she had stepped into the light. The moment Jennie held up Amélie's sketch, the room fractured. Some designers gasped in admiration, others whispered furiously. Antoine's smile collapsed into a grimace, his knuckles widening as he clutched his own portfolio. Claire's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing like a predator watching prey escape the trap. Jennie, however, was oblivious to the storm she had unleashed. She studied Amélie's lines with genuine interest, tilting her head thoughtfully. This feels fresh, she murmured. It's Chanel, but it speaks to me, to my world. It feels honest. Her words were a lifeline, a spark of validation Amélie had craved since stepping into this building. But that spark quickly became dangerous fire. Claire recovered first, her voice sharp as a scalpel. Jennie, darling, while this junior's enthusiasm is admirable, you must understand, designs require maturity, refinement, discipline. We can't gamble Chanel's reputation on reckless sketches. Jennie's gaze lifted, calm but firm. Reckless? I don't think so. Sometimes youth sees what experience forgets. The sentence landed like thunder. Whispers rippled around the room. Claire's jaw tightened, but she forced a polite smile. Of course, we value every perspective. Still, we have a schedule to maintain. She turned sharply. Antoine, prepare your prototype for final adjustment. That will be the look. Amelie's chest constricted. Her sketch, her truth, was about to be buried again. She felt words rising in her throat, but fear clamped down. The hierarchy was suffocating, Claire's authority unshakable. And then Ethan moved. He stepped forward, holding his camera like a sword. With respect, Madame Du Bois, he said steadily, perhaps Jennie should see the full process. I've been documenting Amelie's work. The progression, the materials, the craftsmanship. She deserves to evaluate the vision completely. Gasps. A photographer challenging Claire was unheard of. Claire's eyes snapped to him, cold fury blazing. Stay in your lane, Ethan. You're here to capture, not to dictate. But Jennie raised a hand, silencing the room. Show me. Amelie's heart pounded as Ethan displayed the photos. Amélie hunched over her desk at midnight, sketches pinned on boards, fabric swatches tested under lamplight. Each frame told a story of creation, of authenticity, of sweat and fire. Jennie's lips curved faintly. This is what I want to wear. A design born from truth, not politics. Claire's mask cracked. For the first time, her voice sharpened into open hostility. This is highly irregular. Chanel does not operate on sentiment. Decisions come from discipline and authority, not whim. Jennie's gaze sharpened. And yet I am the one wearing it. My name, my body, on that runway. Shouldn't my voice matter? The silence was deafening. Even the senior designers shifted uneasily. Claire's power was formidable, but Jennie's star power was undeniable. For Chanel, to offend her would be catastrophic. Antoine tried to salvage the moment. He leaned forward, his voice smooth with desperation. Jennie, please, my prototype is already in progress. Amelie's concept, while promising, lacks execution. Trust me, you'll look flawless in mine. But Jennie only tilted her head, eyes cool. Funny. It feels like her concept, not yours. The dagger struck clean. Antoine's face burned crimson. He stammered, but no words came. Claire stepped in, voice laced with venom disguised as civility. Enough. We will review both concepts and present them to the board. Chanel's decision is final. The meeting ended in chaos. Jennie swept out gracefully, trailed by assistants, while Claire barked orders and Antoine stormed off in silence. The remaining designers scattered, whispering frantically about what they had just witnessed. Amélie stood frozen, her portfolio clutched to her chest. She had spoken, she had shown, she had been seen, but at what cost? When the room finally cleared, Claire's voice sliced through the quiet. Stay. Amélie turned slowly. Claire stood alone now, her heels clicking as she approached. Her eyes burned like frost. You embarrassed this office, Claire hissed. You embarrassed me. Do you think Chanel runs on childish dreams? This is not your playground, girl. Step out of line again, and I will make sure your career ends before it begins. Amélie's throat tightened, fear coiling around her spine. But beneath the fear, a new steel burned. Jennie's words still rang in her ears. Sometimes youth sees what experience forgets. She forced herself to meet Claire's gaze. With respect, madam, maybe Chanel needs to remember. For a moment, silence. Then Claire's lips curved into something colder than anger, a smile. Very well. Let's see if you survive. When Amélie finally stepped out into the Paris night, the city lights blurred around her. The battle lines were drawn. Jennie had seen her, Ethan stood by her, but Claire and Antoine would not yield. The backlash had begun. And in the shadow of Paris Fashion Week, Amélie knew this was no longer just about a dress. It was war.
Part 2 is still on the channel. Please watch and follow.